The path to mastery leads through the heart of adversity. Challenge is the raw material from which courage and strength are forged. Warriors are not defined by events. Warriors define them. Warriors conquer themselves before all else. Warriors are relentless in their service to others. Join us as we open our hearts and hone our minds to a razor's edge. It doesn't matter how slow you go, only that you do not stop. Your time is now. And now your host, Jason McKenzie.
Hey everybody, this microsode is about how I learned a lesson or maybe had a time to pause for some self-reflection in a completely first world scenario. So let me tell you the story. Let me tell you the impact it had on me, and then let me tell you what I learned from it. And yeah, this is going to sound really fucking stupid, but sometimes that's my life. And sometimes it's in those moments that seem really weird on the face of it that there's important lessons to be learned. So anyways, here we go. So I'm at hot yoga. It's a nice class. It's a yin class, 75 minutes long. You hold postures for a really long time. It's really challenging for me because I get twitchy, basically. And so it's good, though. It makes me focus on being present. And even though it drives me somewhat insane, I know it's an important thing for me to do. And I'm kind of losing my voice right now. So hold on one second while I get a drink of water. Anyways, so we were having friends over that night. The class ends at 4:15. We were having friends over that night, and I really needed to get out of there at 4:15 because I actually felt a little bit guilty about going to yoga because Tanya was, because I did stuff before, but I felt guilty because I wanted to be home right away after so I could, help prepare the house and set the table and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, make a long story short, it actually might be too late to make this long story short, so maybe I'll just actually make it even longer and say the yoga class was supposed to end at 4:15 and it was like 4:17 and she was still going, and I really wanted to get home, so I left the class quietly. I left the class quietly. I didn't stomp out like the rammy self I normally am. And so as I'm leaving, I went to the bathroom, got changed, and I'm leaving. The instructor stops. The class had ended while I was getting changed. It was really, I left about 1 or 2 minutes before the class was over. And the instructor goes, do you mind not leaving before we do the final Namaste? Because it's very distracting to people. And I was like, in my head, what went through my head was, I felt like saying, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Maybe you could reciprocate and finish the fucking class on time. That would be helpful for me. Of course, I didn't say that, and I felt weird for even thinking that. Actually, this is probably the thing that bothered me the most, because, yeah, I get it, man. I get what she was saying. So I left, and I thought about this for hours afterwards, and I had all these thoughts going through my head, first of all, was I really a distraction to the class? I tiptoed out of there. Come on. But why did I have that reaction where I wanted to, come back at her with something? Or why did that thought even pop into my head? And why am I still thinking about this? And this is such a small thing. I mean, I said, yeah, of course, I won't do that again. And I was wondering, did I feel like my masculinity was this was an affront to my masculinity? Like when I was younger, what I would have done, and not that much younger. I mean, a few years ago, I would have pretended that this didn't bother me. Actually, when I was a lot younger, I would have said the thing about her finishing the class on time. And then a few years ago, I would have pretended that it didn't bother me. But it did bother me. And I really sat in that and tried to figure out, why did it bother me? And I was like, because I try to be a good person. I try not to cause other people to have those feelings. I felt bad because she felt like she needed to address the issue, and she obviously was uncomfortable about it. You could tell in the sound of her voice and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to be the kind of person that causes that stuff. But I never really thought about it. So as that leaving the class early would cause somebody to feel that way. And then I'm having all these thoughts about, I do a lot of things where I don't really pay that much attention to the impact my behavior has on other people. And I was telling Tanya, I didn't even tell Tanya till hours later because I felt so stupid about the whole thing. And then I told her, and I think, but here's the point of this whole ridiculous story It's that it was really important for me to sit in those feelings and try to figure out why I felt that way, how I could have handled the situation differently, if I could have handled it differently at all, and what I'm going to do differently about it next time, because I do think there's a real opportunity for me to be much more intentional and aware about the actions, the effect that my actions have on other people. And I do that a lot when I'm making a contribution to people. But I think that as I'm just going about doing my day-to-day life, sometimes I don't really think about the actions, like how my actions reflect on other people. Like an example would be, Tanya thinks I'm really rude to the cashiers at our local grocery store. I don't think so at all, but she feels like I'm not, that I don't follow the proper process. Like I leave before they hand me the receipt and all those kind of things. And I'm not being rude. I just don't want the receipt. So I'll just, as soon as my bags, I got everything in my hands, I'm out. And so this is one of the things that she brings up. She thinks that I'm not following the process properly. But the point is, me being more aware of the effect that my actions have on other people doesn't mean I'm going to change them, right? Like the whole grocery store thing, I'm friendly. I don't want to change that. But not being aware of how my actions are impacting other people, that's not a good place for me to be, because I want to be really intentional and really conscious about everything that I do and all the impacts that it has. And so I am aware of what my, thoughts, actions, behaviors are creating in the world. So anyways, this all happened, all this thinking happened as a result of, this one interaction with this yoga instructor. So it's just what I would have done in the past is I would have, like I said, pretended it didn't bother me and probably just drank the feelings away, right? And I'm not trying to make this thing sound like more than it was, but I think it's, it's when we get to a point where we can start to think about the smaller things on a day-to-day basis, that there's a lot of value for that. So for example, it doesn't have to be some big screaming blowout with some person at work or a family member to cause us to think about how we contributed to that situation, what we might have done differently, why it bothered us, and all that kind of stuff. It can be the smaller things. Maybe it's that I've gotten past the big things and now I'm actually down to things that are so small that, that's what I need to maybe spend some more time focusing on. So anyways, I know this is totally first world, but I wanted to let you guys know that this is the shit that happens to me. I'm sure it happens to all of us, and it's stuff we never talk about, right? So I guess that's the purpose of this mental health microdose is that there's always an opportunity for us to be aware and conscious of how our actions are impacting other people. And we have the power to choose to do things differently. We also have the power not to choose, or to choose not to do things differently. That's up to us. But anyways, I hope you found that somewhat interesting. Maybe you actually just found it pathetic that I actually had like a run-in with a yoga instructor. But that's today's microdose, and I will continue to try to improve and to bring more intention and consciousness to how I navigate through the world. Namaste.